Hey everyone, it's Vincent here, and I'm pretty happy to finally be talking about my favorite franchise ever, The Legend of Zelda. Zelda games have been near and dear to my heart for quite literally as long as I can remember. Either Ocarina of Time or A Link to the Past were probably the first two games I ever played in my life. Majora's Mask was probably, and possibly still is, my favorite game of all time. I still gotta think about that at this point, but either way, I love these games. Even the ones I like to a lesser degree like Phantom Hourglass or Triforce Heroes I still think are good, solid games. But we aren't here to talk about all those others now, are we? Yeah, we're here to talk about the recently released Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. And is it good or is it bad? How's the story? Is it a worthy prequel to the critically acclaimed Breath of the Wild? Let's go ahead and find out. First, let's go ahead and talk about the story. Now don't worry, especially with this being a new game and all, I'll only talk about the early details of everything. The story opens up right in the middle of the destruction of Hyrule by Ganon. We have this little robo dude waking up and she? Do robots have genders? Did they ever specify that in the story? Let's just go ahead and go with they. They then see the destruction that is going on due to Ganon's reign on everything, so they hop into a time portal and is found by Link, who is but a small grunt of the massive Hyrule army. He is shown around to a few different people and eventually someone named Purah, and she figures out that it was from the future. They then have to figure out more about both it and how to stop Ganon's eventual destruction of everything. Now this game, as mentioned, is a prequel to Breath of the Wild set 100 years in the past before that game. But the one itsy bitsy teensy tiny little thing that Nintendo just wouldn't tell us for some reason is that this game actually takes place in an alternate timeline as the main one that we already knew about. Please, comments, correct me if I'm wrong, but Nintendo never told us this, did they? I don't see why they would, other than being worried that it might hurt sales numbers. I don't know, but it is odd that such a big thing was kept a secret from us. Anyways, that's as far as I'll go in terms of story, because it's honestly pretty hard to talk about it without giving away some kind of spoilers even early on. So let's just talk about the gameplay, shall we? The game, in a way, is a spiritual sequel of sorts to Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U, new 3DS, and now Switch, if any of you have played that game before. It's based off of the long-running franchise known as Dynasty Warriors. They are games developed by KOHGA, who are also the developers for this game. The game, when you boil it down to its most bare-bone parts, is sliced through waves and waves of enemies while trying to defeat the different objectives that you are given. And honestly, this gameplay style is a like it or hate it kind of thing. That mostly stems from the repetitive nature of the gameplay. The reason it's seen as repetitive is due to the fact that, really, all you do is mostly button mash with some form of timing. Let me explain. You have combos that you can do by pressing the Y or X buttons. Y buttons are the weaker but faster hits, while the X button is slower but basically the finisher move to your combo. So you can hit Y twice and then X for a finisher, or you can hit Y one more time and then hit X for a different kind of finisher, etc, etc. There is some strategy when you want to hit the X button for your combos. Maybe you want to hit a wider range of enemies, so the third combo might hit more than the fourth combo. There is a bit more to it though, such as being able to use your relic items from Breath of the Wild, such as remote bombs, that time thingy that I forgot the name of, the magnet, and the ice one. These can be used at specific times to stun your enemies, and you can do massive damage to their stagger circle. I'm not sure if that's what they're actually called, but that's what I'm going to be calling them in this review. The stagger circle will appear after some of the enemy's combos, or if you use the right relic at the correct time. If you manage to destroy the circle entirely, you can go in and do massive damage with a super big hit and almost always really cool looking finisher. You'll even get a custom animation if that finisher actually kills the enemy, and it's always nice to see. Finally, you also have 3 rods, being the electric, fire, and ice rod. These can be used to great effect on certain enemies, but you only have a limited number of uses before they are out, so you have to sometimes get more by either getting lucky with breaking boxes or by killing certain enemies that have elemental things to them like Poes. If you can't tell by now, it's not incredibly shallow gameplay, but it just isn't exactly deep either, and that's why some people just can't get into these games, just because at the end of the day, as said, you're just kind of button mashing with some occasional timing. Heck, I even know some people who can't get into these games, and that's totally fine. I completely get not enjoying this style of gameplay, but for me, oh man, I really enjoy it. I can just play these games for hours and hours and never get tired of it, partially because of the characters. And I think that's a good segue to start talking about the characters. Basically, you have multiple characters, all with their own distinct characteristics. For example, Link has his trusty swords and arrows, and he's fast and powerful. Zelda uses the Sheikah Slate, and while not as fast or as strong as some others, she can hit a wide range of enemies at once with the majority of her attacks. One more example is Daruk, who is huge and packs a massive punch, but as you would expect, is fairly slower than anyone else in the game. Each character has their own set of specialized attacks that help keep things feeling fresh. Every time I get a new character unlocked, I love seeing all the different new animations that they have for them. They are tailor-made for each character, so even two similar people still have very distinct playstyles. You can also use the blacksmith area to combine and upgrade different weapons. You are always getting new weapons from winning battles, but you do have a limited space for them with each individual character. So you can either, again, combine them to level up your main weapon or sell them for rupees. Rupees can also be used to quickly level up your characters at the military training station, and this really cuts down grinding time by a lot. And to be honest, that's actually something this game improves on, in my opinion, from the original Warriors game. And there were only a few instances where I had to go into a specific level just so I could get a few extra rupees or extra supplies for a different quest. Speaking of quests, how do I access those? Well, boy or girl or non-binary individual, do I have an answer for you. So you have the entire Breath of the Wild map, but instead of having to run around to every location, you just teleport there after you choose whatever mission you want. The overworld map has tons and tons of quests for you to do at really any time. Now these missions vary anywhere from simply doing capture the different posts to defeating certain number of enemies, doing something under a time limit, don't take a single tag, escort missions. Seriously, there's a ton of stuff which helps things keep feeling pretty fresh. But not all the little indicators on the map are missions. Some are merely objectives that you can do by having enough of the different types of items. By doing these, you will usually get extra hearts for characters, extra moves, discounts at shops, or even occasionally brand new characters. Now of course this game is pretty freaking heavy on reusing assets from Breath of the Wild, which A, isn't a bad thing to start, B, of course they were going to do it for a prequel, and C, honestly, they do such a good job at it, like how they reuse the relics but in these brand new ways, how enemies act in new ways, and the game usually looks pretty gorgeous. And this game just has a lot of good things going for it. But now, of course, no game is perfect, and yeah, I got some complaints. The camera, while normally is pretty fine, can definitely be pretty wacky and wild to the point that it makes it pretty confusing and hard to see what's going on. Like it'll spin around real quick or maybe get stuck against the walls, but that really only happens when you're indoors or just close spaces in general. Also, the number one thing that this game has been getting hit for is the performance. Tons of frame rate dips is the biggest thing, and really, Okay, so it's really bizarre because the first level of the game runs so poorly, like Jesus, why is it so bad? But aside from that, the game runs usually pretty great, like the other 90% of the time. Yeah, there's still frame rate drops here and there, but it's really not a big deal. I don't know, like it definitely sucks that this game starts you off on such a bad note, but just trust me, stick with it and it gets better, you know? But with all that, let's get down to the conclusion. Is this a quality game? Absolutely yes. Is this game good for everybody? Absolutely no. Is this game good for little old me? Absolutely yes. I had a great time with this one and would definitely recommend it to anyone who has any interest. The presentation is great, mostly. The characters are fun. The story is good, if not just weird with the whole alternate timeline thing. And yeah, this is a great game. There's a demo of it up on the eShop right now. If you're at all interested, give it a shot, see for yourself. Well, that's it for me, everyone. Did you like this video? How can I improve? Let me know down in the comments down below, and subscribe to Just Gaming for more gaming news and videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye.